forgive me for a second, for the purpose of recording, I'll just recap a little bit. So when yoga first came to the West, it came in the form of a written book, many written books, and the deeper practices of yoga could not be explained in a book because it's not one size fits all. So what the masters that wrote those books, B.K.S. Iyengar, for example, Patabi Joyce, and there's Shivananda's disciples, when they started explaining it, they primarily explained the asana component. And that became very predominant. And when it got re-imported back to India, it again became very predominant. And therefore, now there is a perception that the practice of yoga is mainly asanas. And that's very much not true. It's probably, I'd say, maybe 30-40% of the asana practice. What else do you do in yoga? What you do is mudras. You hold your body you bring specific parts of the body together, fingers together, or hands on your hips, tongue on the roof of the palate. These or holding the toes with your fingers. These are called mudras, and they complete energy circuits which have an extraordinary effect. And bandhas, these are muscular tension that you hold along the center line of your body. There are many, but there are three major ones: bottom of the spine, at the belly, and at the throat. And with those things, you can make the heart slow down. Not for some magical thing, but it's a way to make the mind still. And then there is pranayama. It's kind of the crown jewel of yogic practices. You find the deeper portion of you that has the ability to control and still the mind through the breath. So you have those practices, and then you have the meditative practices. There is something called ajapa japa, which means you chant a mantra without moving your lips or without any disturbance. Hong Sa is a very famous such practice. And there are other meditation techniques and so on. The sum total of all of this is known as Raja Yoga, the royal path of yoga, of divine union. And its primary purpose is to control the thoughts. What we are stuck with a body that doesn't want to move, and we are stuck with a mind that cannot stop moving. Yet the definition of health, well-being, spiritual progress, or anything is when the opposite happens, when the body moves and the mind becomes still, and that's what Raja Yoga does. So this particular course goes back to the pre-1950s and picks up yoga the way it was taught, not just asanas, but mudras, bandhas, pranayama, Hong Sa practice, which is a deeper practice of meditation. And then along the way, we'll talk about Yoga Sutras, the textbook of yoga, and Vedanta, from which Yoga Sutras are derived. That's the last part of the Vedas. So we'll talk about that and many, many other things. And the course lasts for 12 calendar weeks, during which you will have 13 actual classes. 12 of those classes will be Thursdays from 6 to 9:15, and the 13th class will be one of the Saturdays, I believe, from 1:30 to 4:30 or something like that. Okay, so that's kind of a basic overview. I'll be leading the class, and we'll have other teachers also teaching that along with me. So let me stop there, and let me just break for questions, discussions. We can just talk about any of this stuff. Leslie, go ahead.
So we can come in person, is that right? And are there any props, anything that we need to bring?
Yeah, very good question. So let me answer both of those for the benefit of the recording. The question was, can you come in person? The intention is that this class will be held in person. Is it here or Yoga Hall? Well, somewhere in this complex. The Delta variant is constantly changing, moving target. We don't know what CDC will say next week. We do take those seriously, so if something changes radically, then we let you know, but right now we are planning for in person, but also you can take it online if you want to. It's entirely up to you, but so we call it a hybrid class, offered both in person and online. Second, what props do you need to bring? You will need minimally a yoga mat and a small yoga brick and either a foam block or a blanket. Those and a yoga strap will be helpful, though not absolutely necessary. And if you come here in person and you forgot your props, we usually have a few extra that you can borrow. We the more there is COVID, the more we shy away from that borrowing principle simply for reasons of hygiene. Okay?
What's the difference between a yoga brick and a yoga with a foam block?
A yoga, do we have examples of those? I bet we have foam block. We'll just show you. Just hold on to that thought for a moment. Okay?
So, I've been trying to follow Yogananda's lessons. How different or aligned is it to that, the Raja Yoga?
Yeah, very good question. How aligned is it with the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda? 100% aligned. I'll tell you, I'll answer that from two perspectives. One is, this is the first class you need to take in preparation for getting Kriya initiation. So if Kriya initiation is your goal, then this would be the first step along the way. So that is from the curriculum perspective, if you will.
We don't have one more.
Okay. Yeah, the yoga, yeah, that's fine. And then the second is, one of the things that Paramahansa Yogananda did was he took these teachings of yoga and explained it, for the lack of a better term, he explained it in plain English and avoided the use of Sanskrit terms. And in doing so, what he did was he explained Yoga Sutras in plain English. And that's exactly what this course is. It is the way Yogananda dealt with the teachings of yoga in English. So it's entirely his teachings. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is a foam block. You can bring a blanket to substitute for it. A yoga brick is also made of foam or wood, but looks like a brick. We don't have one right here, but it's about this size. And it's about, there we go. This is thank you, Rick. Where'd you find it? Oh, is it the YTT desk? I should have known. This is a yoga brick.
So it's like a yoga block.
It's a yoga block. Yeah. See, sometimes we call both of these as blocks, so we've moved to some precision in our terminology. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Okay, so this course is just, it's not like you're getting a teacher training, it's just for us to learn about Raja Yoga and take part in it, right?
This course itself doesn't result in any kind of training or certificate. It's a workshop on Raja Yoga.
Okay.
But if you wish to take meditation teacher training, or if you wish to take yoga teacher training, then this course is a requirement for both.
Okay, yeah, I was just confused because no, I'm not interested in that. I just wanted to learn the Raja Yoga.
Yeah, no, this is not the teacher training.
Okay, perfect, okay.
Besides coming once a week every Thursday till lunch,
Yeah.
and when we go home, do we also have set things to do every day?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you will receive with every class, well, you won't receive it anymore, it's online. You'll get to download the handout for that particular week. And in it is a set of practices that we suggest you do for that week. So it's a combination of both home practice and the sadhana over here. Yes, Sita.
I'll just add that also, all of you can practice yoga in any of we have 9 drop-in yoga classes a week.
Yeah.
Oh, in person?
By that, well, it's hard to say with the pandemic, but that's what we're shooting for. Murali's 9 a.m. Saturday yoga classes in person, so you can, if you don't want to practice on your own, you can practice there. And then there's free guided meditations online that are live during the week, and you can come to the temple for guided meditations as well in person. So just support your practice.
Yeah, we have, so one yoga class is here, already started in person. And I think by August 8th, we'll probably have 3 more. And by September, when this thing starts, maybe even more in-person classes. We'll see.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I have to like visualize this, but so the course is from 6 to 9. So
9:15.
9:15, yes, So do you collaborate during that time? Is it just we sit in silence and just take in what you say?
Very good question. Thank you for asking that. And so the way the structure of every class looks like this. You come in at 6, and for approximately an hour and 10 minutes, we'll teach you yoga poses, and we'll teach you about yoga poses. We'll teach you mudras, bandhas, and all of those. That's the first hour, let me just say hour and 15 minutes. The next half an hour to 45 minutes, it will increase as we go along, will be a meditation practice right after that. So there we'll go deeper into pranayama, we'll explore chanting as a way of opening the heart for meditation practices, and then we'll do what outside has been called mindfulness, but it's actually far deeper than mere mindfulness. That's a key technique we'll explore. So that usually finishes around 7:45, and you'll have a 15-minute break. Then for the next hour and 15 minutes, we'll talk the theoretical topic from across the Yoga Sutras. So that's the structure of each class. And the last part is, yes, it is a talk. One of us will be talking, but it's also a discussion. Okay? Okay, good. Any other, what else? Yes?
Just the cost, because I didn't see anything online yet.
So the regular, I should know this.
Okay, can you also speak to the camera, Sita?
Oh, yeah, so it's,
Well,
Come up here so you can speak to both.
if you need the car next, so you need to get there.
no, we can, all right. I'm flexible. That's what I learned in Rajas, how to be flexible.
We have it on the choir mic. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I want to say, and I will check before you leave, it's $395, but if we have an early bird special right now, so if you sign up and pay in full by Sunday, August 22nd or 23rd, then you get a discount. And that is, if you go to sign up online, you'll see in the pricing, it has the discount, and that'll just automatically change after that date. So, yeah.
When is the first session? When is that, September or something?
Yeah, it's the Thursday after Labor Day,
The
9th.
We look at all the details. It's like yoga and breathing. Oh, yeah, that's the practical stuff.
I know.
I
Yeah,
can
so
go check on the pricing
it's
now.
basically, it goes from the week after Labor Day to the week before Thanksgiving. That's the schedule.
And if you miss, you could just do it.
If you miss a class, lightning will strike you down. I'm kidding. No.
But you know how to work with that.
Well, there's actually two options for you. If you're unable to come here, then if as an exception you can join us online, or every class is recorded and you'll have a well-known place where you can go watch the recording online. So not a big deal.
Okay, I have the information. So it is $395, and it's $365 if you sign up by August 22nd. So when you leave, you can take one of these flyers. I also have handwritten applications, or you could do it online. Or there's a sheet here. This information's online, but some people like to see it, are really visual, and all the details are in here. And then, you wanna-
Thank you, Sita. Okay. What else? Keep going.
Any health concerns you should be concerned about or anything like that?
Okay. So, in general, this is suitable for everybody. We would like to know if there are health issues so that we can suggest modifications or what things to do, what not to do. But over the years, we've had people taking it that have been pregnant, that have had a recent cardiovascular incident. We've had people with a range of health conditions pass through and take it. So in general, it should be okay, but we do need to know. Specifically, I need to know so that we can. We'll work with you individually in such cases and make sure that we are doing the right
Because
thing.
my daughter, I want my daughter to be interested.
Interested in taking the class after I tell her, and she has a PVCs, the extra heartbeats, and so I just wanted to make sure breath work wouldn't.
Absolutely, we'll work with that. So she wouldn't be able to do all the practices, but we can chart a safe path.
Speaking of your daughter, is there an age, like, could I have my son join? He's 13.
13? Yeah, that should be, different 13-year-olds are different levels of 13. Now, having made that general disclaimer, it should be okay. Anything below that,
Yeah.
you see, what happens is there is a certain degree of certain level of focus that's necessary, and children below a certain age, they need to be taught differently. But 13's right in there, and you'll know what kind of a 13-year-old you have. So, but we've had people of that age join us and get a lot out of it.
Yeah, you'll know your son. I let a younger, maybe even younger person come to a class once, and during Shavasana, I was mortified to see that this person was building a wall of these blocks around them while they were laying on their back, and I thought, okay, maybe not too young. But
Well, I've had adults do that too, just to say it. So was that too wishy-washy? Was that helpful for you?
No, that, your answer made perfect sense, yeah.
Okay.
And if there's any hesitation, like, I know I want the Raj part of the philosophy, but yoga postures, I don't know if they're for me. Before I came to Ananda, I used to look at the cover of Yoga Journal in the grocery store and think, they're good at yoga, they know what they're doing. Or I go to classes and people could be pretzels, I'm like, they're doing yoga. And what I realized when I came here, it was so freeing because we're just using our bodies to have this inner experience. And so all bodies are suitable for yoga to have those inner experiences. And with the props and the way Ananda Yoga is shared, it's adaptable. So at the end of the day, it's like if you have a prop or not, or you're not like a pretzel, it's like it's all about that inner experience. So be open to that. No, you don't have to wear spandex or anything like that. That's
Well,
yoga class.
I'm excited to just be in a community. I've missed that, and whether it's meditation or just having a discussion or just doing some yoga poses, maybe that's the part that
It's an
I'm thirsty
incredible.
for.
Yeah.
And speaking of communities, the plan, at least right now, is to have that Saturday class happen at the Ananda community. We don't know how things will progress, but we are thinking about it. So there is a very good chance that during that, you'll be able to visit the community and see what goes on in there. Okay. So this is the textbook that you'll be using. I believe this is included in the. No, it isn't. Okay, what do I know? Anyway, you'll need to have it. And it's. I just wanted to tell you this text. I have studied yoga as a philosophy. I have a PhD in yoga, and I formally studied it in the original Sanskrit. And I have read many commentaries on the Yoga Sutras. And this is perhaps the best modern day text on Yoga Sutras that I have ever come across by a large margin. And it's deceptively simple. And because it's so simple, sometimes it almost feels like maybe it's not so profound. And until you get past that and say, wow, it is simple and profound. So this will be probably much of what any of us will be talking about will be in this text. So the biggest takeaway for people that take this course is the fact that you get to study this particular text. So I just wanted to. Most everything I said, I'm just speaking from my own personal acquaintance with this for the last 16 years. Okay.
And is that book in the bookstore? We can purchase it there.
I brought a bunch of copies in if you just want to look at it too.
Okay, yes.
Just because you mentioned a little bit about yourself, I was kind of curious about your story and your journey doing this for 16 years, if you feel comfortable sharing that.
Sure, I mean, it's not much of a story, I'm afraid. But I grew up in India, in Bangalore, and I practiced yoga from maybe the age of 8. And I came over here, and in my 20s, I kind of moved away from it. And later on, I had this compulsion to go back. I tried martial arts and just all kinds of other things. I was never far away from a physical practice that reached back into the mind. But then eventually, I felt the compulsion to come back. And there was one day I was at this marvelous bookshop, which is now moved downstairs, called East West Bookshop. And then I walked across. In fact, Louise was there with me. We both walked across, and I saw this altar. And in the moment I saw this, there was a pull that I just could not explain. It just felt like I came home. And it's not one of those emotional things. It was just a thing. It's a matter of fact, calm, factual. Now I'm home. And therefore, every single practice that came through the teachings of these folks up on the altar, I had no trouble tuning into it. And so over time, I also started guiding these practices, instructing them. And also, I have a scientific background. I had a master's in computer science. And later on, I studied in India, got a PhD in yoga. And my research area, I'm an active research scientist in the effects of yoga on diabetes. That's what I do in my outside life. So for what it's worth, that's my story. And the most important aspect of my story, of course, is the discipleship with Paramahansa Yogananda and the teachings and Kriya Yoga, most importantly. So.
Thank you.
And that brings me then to your, last question around health benefits. Because I do have type 2 diabetes, and one of the biggest reasons is, of course, for my own health, but you mentioned about the diabetes as well too, so could you speak to other health benefits maybe by doing the Raja Yoga or learning about it?
Oh, many. That could be a topic on its own. But let me just give you a couple of highlights. One is on the subject of diabetes itself. We were surprised. We did the project that I worked on it's the largest epidemiological study on diabetes and yoga, just some 70,000 people. And then we found that a 3-month yoga therapy was more powerful than metformin and exercise combined. The definitive study on diabetes intervention in terms of prevention is a study done in the US which used metformin. For those of you that don't know, it's if they suspect you are at the risk of diabetes, it's a molecule that they give you, and exercise. And yoga was about twice as effective, which was actually very, very surprising. So there is something going on there. It's not just simple exercise opens up the insulin receptors in your cells, but there seems to be more. And what seems to be happening is yoga seems to reduce, diabetes is partly an inflammatory condition, and yoga seems to reduce inflammation no matter what the source is at what's called as an epigenetic level. And so people are still trying to figure out, so there is that anti-inflammatory thing which works across multiple systems, including cancer recovery, for example. And then there is the anti-stress, the parasympathetic response, which also works at multiple systemic levels. So those are the two main ones. And because of that, because say something like anti-inflammatory would benefit autoimmune conditions, allergy, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, things like that. So the benefits seem to cut across a wide variety of health conditions. On the second side of it, since I mentioned it in the introduction, yoga was invented to calm the mind. And therefore things like anxiety, insomnia, depression, what's the other big one, increasing concentration, ADHD, post-traumatic stress, all of what I'm saying is where you have actual scientific studies to back it up. Yoga seems to be effective. So again, I can go for a very long time on this topic, but that should give you an idea.
Thank you.
Okay, anything? Yes?
What is the link between Raja Yoga and Kriya Yoga? And maybe just you can explain what Kriya Yoga is.
Yeah. So Kriya Yoga is Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga has with it many different practices. At the superficial level, Raja Yoga deals with the body to awaken the energy. At a slightly deeper level, it brings the energy inward. And at an even deeper level, it begins to magnetize that energy upward through the chakras. And Kriya Yoga is a practice that combines all of those when there is enough awareness of energy, enough awareness of the spine sushumna, and enough concentration. You can combine the breath and the energy and the mind to move the energy within the spine. Okay? And that's Kriya Yoga. When you move the energy with intention within the spine, then the impressions of past habits, known as samskars, they begin to lessen. And that's why Yogananda called it the airplane route to God, that we get into a mode of, turbocharged listening. You can really get into that silence. So that's Kriya, and there are practices leading up to Kriya, all of which are Raja Yoga practices. Is that kind of, there is much more, of course. Take the course. We'll talk about it a lot.
If you're interested in Kriya Yoga, this is the prerequisite. So as this ends before Thanksgiving? Yeah, before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then starting in January, if you want to continue, you could go on to Kriya Prep 1. So this is the start of the journey.
Okay, anything else? Great questions, everyone. Sometimes you come to these open houses and it's like, okay, whatever, nobody's asking anything. These are great. Okay, do we have anybody online, Louise?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want information, I have it at the back. Murali and I will be back there to talk about it. I shouldn't say where you're going to be.
I'll be there.
Murali's everywhere. And the books, if you want to check them out, if you want to purchase the books, we can do that. And then if you want more information, we have it. So.
Would you recommend reading the book ahead of time or along with the class?
It's not necessary. We'll give you plenty of reading in class.
I know it sounds good, and you're like, I don't want to wait till September 9th. I want to know.
I read it ahead of time because I had no life, but it's not necessary. Okay. Well, thank you all, friends. So we'll hope to see some or perhaps all of you in class.
Thank you.
Okay. And if you want to leave your name and email, you can